you to Andrea or your time.
Hare Krishna. It's amazing, Kirtan. People would be bringing you every day while you are here for Kirtan. So we are very glad to have today's Malati Prabhu with us. Today is our last day here. Actually, after this Sunday feast, we'll be heading out. Um, it's a happy, sad separation. Happy in the sense that we had some amazing time over the last 2 days, and sad because it would always be sad to see her go. But we hope that she'll be back again soon to bless us with her association and her guidance. Her guidance has been invaluable in so many different respects. And we're always learning and we're always growing with Malati Prabhu. So, how many of you do not know Malati Prabhu? Is there anyone here who does not know Malati Prabhu? Okay, one, big one. Oh, you're two, three, wow. Okay. Malati Prabhu is one of the foremost disciples of Srila Prabhupada. In San Francisco, there were three couples, and as yesterday, if you're attended, you know the story about how they were sent by Prabhupada to London to establish Krishna consciousness. They established the Soho temple there, and not Soho temple.
That was after the first temple was in front of the British Museum. It was called Bury Place.
Oh, okay. It was the very place, called the Soho temple, that was afterwards. So, but that was the initial temple in London that was established for Srila Prabhupada over there. And Malati Prabhu was instrumental there with the other devotees who were there. And besides that, she's traveled India and she's traveled so many different places. Serving Srila Prabhupada in so many different respects. So it's really an honor for us. Like I actually calculated based on Malati Prabhu's dates that 57 years she has been serving Srila Prabhupada in this Imagine the dedication and the surrender to Srila Prabhupada. If we can only get about 1% of that surrender, our lives will be complete. So we're very, very happy here. So today is actually the Sunday feast is our last session here with us for this visit. So let us all very loudly chant very full 3 times for Malati Prabhu. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Let's take our association, listening intensely to our standard instructions.
I've noticed for the wonderful kirtan, please say with love and Priya because she was the one behind the wheel that got me here. The disciple of Jujuna Swami, and she has a 24/7 service with the Eastern European BBT. She's away on, and I forget how many languages?
Like me or BBT?
Yeah.
I think I was like maybe 40 languages.
Yeah, about 40 languages, and she lives away out for the books. So in between the driving and the programs, sometimes you see her sitting there on the computer. It's not nonsense. It's like serious seva.
It should have been
There's so much I would like to share with you, but then there's the time thing. So just one thing that I might forget, and then I'm just going to give some little historical references. But because there's many composters here, mostly you are, and it's not always a smooth sailing ship, being married, having kids, and dealing with life and consciousness. And I had an incident when, after going to the UK, because when I went there, I had a daughter that was 6 weeks old by the time we left America, just kind of small. And we didn't have any residents. We were arriving there, we didn't have an address to go to, where to go. I mean, we had the address of the Beatles office, and we knew we were gonna go there, but where were we gonna go, didn't have a clue. And, so we were living like here and there, we kept getting kind of bounced around. And then we were offered a place to live for some time. And it was almost in the central London, which was great strategically speaking because of the location. And it wasn't a living quarters, it was a warehouse. So kind of, I forget how many floors. And on the bottom floor, there was like which became a garage for a silly little matchbox car. And there was no shower facility. So initially we would have to go out and they had these public showers and baths. They didn't have showers and baths, you would go to, at least they had those at the time. And no kitchen. So Shamsun is very industrious. Shut up or something. So he arranged a shower of sorts in the garage area where the car it was. And as it's turned out, I also stayed there with my daughter Sarah Slutty. It was a big cardboard box, some kind of appliance and box. So myself and Sarah Slutty were there. And then there was this we call underground newspaper. So underground refers to, in this case, it had a real meaning and an underground in the sense that it was not a formal, like big name newspaper. It was, telling stories and incidents that weren't going to hit the main news, but were important to young people especially. So that was in the basement, which meant they had to walk through where the shower was, where our car was, and where I was, and my daughter Sarah's wedding. But this, and then I ended up kind of being the shopper, the cook, and the laundry person, so that the others could be free to go out and try to find the temple and try to find people who would be interested to help us find the temple. But it was kind of intense for me, actually, having this kid, and then doing the shopping with, pushing there was like a little basket, and I put my baby in the little basket and, wheel around. And I got kind of overwhelmed at one point. So I wrote a letter to Judah Prabhupada in November. So we hadn't been there all that long, September, October, November, November 15th. And he wrote back to me. So here was, I'll read the letter and then you'll understand the question that I asked him. And he said, I thank you very much for your nice letter of November 15th, 1968. And I have noted the contents with great satisfaction. Your humble sentiments are very nice exposed herein, and your sincere desire to serve the Lord is the real profession of life. And then he gets down. You have asked if I found it difficult to carry on devotional service in my household or in life. Now, that was kind of in retrospect, I was asking a question. It was a little impertinent because people maybe ask like that, but as I said, I was feeling overwhelmed, and who else could I best go to? So he said, you've asked if I found it difficult, and I've already explained to you my difficulties. And he goes, and yes, I did. And then he explained his difficulty. It was quite different. In my household life, I was strictly following the regular principles, but my wife was reluctant to assist me properly. Therefore, I was obliged to give up her company. Of course, he didn't just, walk out the door. He left things in order. But therefore, I was obliged to give up her company. And then he starts instructing me. Therefore, you try to take care of Lord Jagannath as far as possible after doing your household duties, but you should be strict only in completing 16 rounds of chanting. So, breaking that down a bit, taking care of Lord Jagannath, these were the first little deities. If there's time, I'll tell that little story. How the first Jagannath deities appeared. And of course, from them, the large ones were carved. Actually, 4 different sets of large Jagannath were carved by Shamsundar. But these were the ones I found, small. And I had brought them with me to England, trying to somehow or other try to take care of them. And my daughter and the husband and the other devotees. So then, we said, take care of the duties after doing your household duties. And my household was a little bit expanded. And then he said, to make it really clear, you should be strict only in completing 16 rounds of chanting. So that was, I wasn't expecting that. But nor would I wasn't thinking that I shouldn't chant 16 rounds, but he made that clarity. That was, whether the deities or anything else, this is the real thing. Only, remember that. Be strict only in that. And he said, that will save you from all discrepancies. As a householder, so here's something really important. Please listen to your householders. As a householder, even there is some flaws in following the rules and regulations, it doesn't matter. You should try your best, and with Krishna's help, Krishna will help you. If you keep your heart in that attitude that you want to become a pure and sincere devotee, you must be a sincere devotee, and Krishna will help you. Reiterated 7 times. You have to keep your heart in that way. That is your business. I hope you're well with your child. So I thought I would like to share that with all of you. And then there was, going on to a little bit of a historical reference. So initially there was a wonderful storefront temple. This is considered a storefront, right? Our storefronts were probably as far as, they weren't even as big as the one of the windows across there. And they might have been from the window to the first part here in size. In other words, they weren't extremely large. But that was the first edition, so New York and now San Francisco. And Srila Prabhupada had told Mukunda that if he got a temple in San Francisco, then he would come. So after some endeavors, we had that temple, and Srila Prabhupada was sent a ticket, and he came. So he was arriving on mid-January of 67. So there's a little historical reference here. Not only was he getting the second temple, but if you remember how Srila Prabhupada got to America, was on a boat. It wasn't a cruise ship. It was a cargo ship. And I can tell you that, I have been on a cruise ship once. The devotees, Bhakti True Maharaj and Radhanath Swami, Satchidananda Swami, quite a number of them get together, and they made this cruise that started in England, went around, France, Portugal, Spain, it was like a 5-day thing, affair. And that ship had everything in it. There was multiple restaurants, which of course we didn't bother with. And there was in a hospital in the ship and doctors on the ship. And Prabhupada was on this cargo ship. And thinking about cargo ships, if you've seen some of the cargo ships, they're massive. They're huge affairs. So, anybody here, I guess you all know the name of that ship? Say it loud. There you go. This is important, and then I heard that the Jaladuda was going to be scrapped. And I'm thinking, wow, that is like, I want to see it in person before that happens, because once it's scrapped, that's it, no more. So I was in India, and I went to the Bombay shipyard, because that's where I heard it was. I was in Mumbai, Bombay at that time. So I go down there, and these huge monster ships are there, and I'm looking up, so Jaladuda. I can't find it, and I was starting to get, oh no, I missed it, And then I see some little guy, and excuse me, Jaladuda, Jaladuda, where's Jaladuda, where's Jaladuda? I'm looking up, he points down. So I look down, and here is this like little tiny thing compared to all the other things, Jaladuda. I would not have gone out of the harbor in that, And Srila Prabhupada left Calcutta, he left that harbor, he crossed, on Cape Comorin, he went to the Suez Canal, he crossed over 7 oceans and 6 oceans and seas, and then finally the Atlantic, just to get to America to save us. And on that crossing, he suffered these heart attacks. And there was no infirmary. There were no doctors. When I was on that cruise, that little 5-day cruise with all, we weren't the only people. There was, they wouldn't have supported that, So, but they were so amazed. Somehow they got bewildered. They let us use the kitchen. I mean, that's just doesn't happen. We were allowed to use the kitchen. They gave us a facility for our morning programs and all. It was quite amazing. What was the facility to Prabhupada? He did have a nice room, but the heart attacks, no one except Krishna. We were having our morning program, and all of a sudden on the cruise, all of a sudden this guy had some kind of, now he was a devotee, he had some kind of an episode, he's on the floor. And we even had doctors in, so they're running, but the cruise ship also sent their people. They sent, one of those things on wheels, and they whisked him to the hospital. And he said, he was saying he didn't have, but, big difference. So when we would get off the ship at each stopping station, there would be media awaiting for us, means cameras, people, the town's mayors, and different dignitaries would be there. Some devotees had made this arrangements, right? It wasn't accidental, but they were there. We were greeted, and we would be on the news media, and then we go through the town doing Harinam Sankirtan. Prabhupada arrives first of all in Boston. He has to go through the formalities, like when you fly from India. Maybe you're going to first you're coming here, but you first touch down. Maybe you don't come directly to Atlanta. It might be somebody somewhere else. So you have to go through your formalities there and then take a local carrier. So Prabhupada's first touchdown was Boston. And there he went through the facilities. And there he saw for the first time America. And there he wrote that beautiful poem, my dear Lord, if you want me to dance, you can make me dance. I'm just a puppet in your hands. Somehow you sent me here. I don't know why, but Actually, one time, one devotee boy said to Srila Prabhupada, I'm just your puppet. Prabhupada looked at him and he goes, yes, I want you to dance this way, but you are dancing that way. So, And there was nobody there except one unknown person from this agency called Travelers Aid. That they don't do much, I mean, they answer questions, they try to set you in the right direction. And this man had a bus ticket for Prabhupada from Port Authority in New York down to Butler, Pennsylvania. So he brought him to Port Authority that was after going around and passing through the formalities in Boston, he carried on to New York. It was actually in Brooklyn. So then there's, now he's getting off the ship. That's it, he's here. There's nobody except this one man. And he takes him to Port Authority. The Port Authority is now kind of been gentrified, spruced up. At that point in time, I mean, I want to gag thinking about it. I went to see it. It was like, you've heard of the Bowery where they just passed out drunks in their urine and vomit. It was the same kind of thing there. So he gets on the bus, and he himself was describing in a letter to one devotee friend what that trip was like. They're not. He was so like they're a little slower than 50 miles an hour. It's continuous, and there's continuous lights. I mean, I'm in India. Now it's maybe a little better, but I used to find it so weird in India. It'd be dark and they wouldn't turn on their headlights because they had some idea. This is what they told me. I said, why don't you turn on your headlight? Because it will use up the battery or something. And then some of them actually thought it might use more gasoline, so. But here it was like nonstop stream of lights and vehicles were going no slower than 50 miles an hour, So it was quite when we say culture shock, and then he arrives in Butler, PA, which is not a thriving city. For a while it was in the steel industry. And so it was thriving for a while, but they're saying it has seen better days. So that was the situation. And then he's taken to this home of his sponsors. And the sponsor was Gopal Agarwal, so you can tell he was an Indian gentleman. And his wife was Sally. Sally was a Western lady. He had come to America for work, and she was one of his colleagues at work. And, they got together, got married. And, but he could see, he had a plan. He wanted to start something, but it wasn't going to happen in Butler, Pennsylvania. So then he goes back to New York and he's struggling. And people really don't know how much he struggled. They just think, oh, he came and everything was great, but it wasn't really that great, And he's having to stay in situations that were not even inhabitable. Like I'm saying, I stayed in a cardboard box. That's a fact, and I had some instances I will not bother to tell you. But Srila Prabhupada, he was staying at one instance in a office flat building. So he had a small little empty wall office without even a window to the sidewalks. No bathroom for showers, just a toilet. In an office I'll have a toilet, that's it. And a place to wash your hands, no place to shower, no place to cook. So you have to walk through the street to a public shower place. And then he went to this one person, Dr. Mishra, who was an impersonalist yogi, would walk to his place in order to cook something. And there was a letter I found one time, and he was writing to somebody, and he was saying, sometimes, there's nowhere he can go at night because the building is locked in. So he's locked in that place. And he goes, sometimes he was so hungry he could not even sleep. And I was so heartbroken when I read that because at that time we were around, you were around, I was around. And Prabhupada was here and we didn't even know it, and he was hungry and he couldn't sleep. So it became, you see what it became. We're sitting here to what it became, but to get to this point, it was a struggle. And Prabhupada never gave in to defeat. He said that sometimes he would go to the office of the ship, the Sydney steam line. He would see when's the next ship out, but he never got on it. He just he just persevered. And during the winter, like when he first saw the snow, he didn't even know, of course he knows snow, but he had never seen snow. So he thought it was limestone, but he couldn't understand how did they do that overnight, And during that time in that office building, there was this big blackout. You can look it up and it was such a big blackout, it's got a place in the history of, America. And so that blackout meant there was a total darkness, a total electricity failure. Nothing worked. The subways didn't work, no electricity. There was the elevators some people were stuck in elevators for like hours. I mean, like with hours, like 23 hours or so. So Prabhupada's in that office building, lights were gone. He was just sitting and chanting. He didn't know what was going on. And again, there weren't the little things that like you can know right away. Like we're driving and suddenly with our trip down here was a bit of it wasn't so smooth in terms of constant travel. There was massive delays and slowdown. We'd look on our phone and then we'd find out, oh, okay, 23 minutes. This time, it's an accident and this and that. You can keep up to what's going on. But you're literally in the dark and in the dark. And so he's sitting there chanting, and this Dr. Mishra sent one of his assistants over to the office building to bring some candles and some fruit to Srila Prabhupada. And when he asked him, so what was he doing? He was just sitting and chanting. That was Prabhupada, undisturbed, Dira, undisturbed. So, getting that first temple, in October of 65, was the first recorded kirtan with Srila Prabhupada. It wasn't a formal recording, it was some little thing that happened, but it was in Tompkins Square Park. And then there was a formal recording, Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And that recording ended up in the hands of the Beatles. I mentioned that the other day, so it wasn't for nothing. So now we're inviting him to San Francisco, and he's coming, and he didn't have to get on a ship because obviously you can't take a ship. Oh, you could, I mean, if you took a rather detour route. He had his first airplane ride, so that was the history I was going to bring up. He had his first airplane ride. New York, touchdown, Chicago, change planes, and then come up to San Francisco. So first initiation in San Francisco was quite, a day or two after that. And that was when I was initiated. There were four of us. Myself, Shamsundar, and then Hardy Cohen, who became Hari Das, and then Hope, who became Harsharani. Now, if you have it's a fairly recent Back to Godhead, maybe 1 or 2 issues back. And there's an article by Stephen Rosen Satyaraj about Hardy Cohen, who's like, 93 or something now. And he tracked him down in New York City and he interviewed him. So if you can get that, Back to Godheads are online nowadays, I think, so it's definitely worth a read. I'll tell you the time, Krishna, that time goes so fast. I was gonna quickly tell you, like, the first initiation in San Francisco, there were 4 of us.
Yeah, you can go.
And but people here, and I have to say, I'm very sensitive. People come, we say we're gonna do something at a certain time, And they come with that expectation and, you know, this is like I told you that little kid said, I was saying, we can make it more comfortable. And he goes, well, the speaker just goes on and I'm hungry. So, you know. So I don't want to be that speaker. So anyways, I'll tell two quick things about the initiation. How many people here have not been to a Hare Krishna initiation? Well, there's a few, a few of you, you have an idea what it might be like there's a home on fire, yeah, you know, so, we had never ever seen one, the first one was the year before, on Janmashtami of 66. Second one was Radhastami, 66, and then, we come along, across, you know, from east to west. And the devotees in New York were really suspicious about the devotees in San Francisco. They were like, you know, they were really worried we'd steal their Swami. So they sent a couple people to, you know, make sure we wouldn't do that and it was a good thing they did, you know, so otherwise we were clueless, we would have been more clueless when it came to this yajna. So he gives this, one of the guys gives me a scrap of paper with a few things and he said, yeah, this is what you have to get. Okay, bananas, so if you get to the yajna, you know, put the bananas in the fire, you know that, you get that part of it, right? Incense, and in those days, when you said incense, we had the impression, I don't know where it came from, probably our hippie mind, but you had incense meant like, you know, a whole big fat package. So there would inevitably be visible clouds of incense when you would go to a Hare Krishna temple, you know, early on. So incense, the bananas, some sand, okay, I know what sand is. He wanted some powdered colors, I got that together. And then he asked for 5 pounds of butter. What are you gonna do with 5 pounds of butter? And he says, we'll put it on the fire. And I looked at him like he was crazy and I go, what a waste. So everything's get together. We're going to have that, you know, and then we told everybody in the area of St. Ashbury was like the hippie haven. You know, New York and San Francisco were the 2 points of hippie power, but by and large, San Francisco was the place, you know, the Love and Peace Brother place. And we're invited all of our friends, and myself and Sam Center, we had friends from the burgeoning rock and roll people of the time, so many of those people were there, all packed in, like, if you all could keep, I'm not saying to do this, I'll just say, but if you all kept squishing together and together till you couldn't breathe, that's what the place was like. And it was a storefront in the window, and you couldn't even see in it because of the incense, right? And I mean, each of us had different ways of looking, you know, at what was about to take place, you know. And with some kind of expectations, we gave everybody little scraps of paper with the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra on it, because even we were quite fully, like we had to look at it to get all the words in the right order still, you know. And in those days, we did not buy japa beads, we made them, we bought beads from a hobby shop, and then we strung our own beads. That was the system actually at that point, because there was not the Indian trade at this coming on, so we strung our own beads. So if you look at the old pictures, you'll see these big round beads, and that's because that's what we had, these big round beads. Our kunti mala was also made by us. You know, we got the littlest beads we could, pine, made with pine wood, and we strung them. So this was just how things were, and Prabhupada was so pleased to see our enthusiasm to begin this process of devotional service. So now we're really taking a big step, and we understood that once you take these vows and you get these beads around your neck, that's it, there's no going back. So it wasn't very serious situation. And I remember sitting in there and I think my eye looked over at the door and I looked, you know, the whole setup. And I'm thinking, well, if you don't think you can do this, there's the door. And then when you go through this thing, you couldn't even, you know, the smoke was getting more and more. And then the next thing you know, here comes some beads and they're gonna go around your neck. You know, that was it, you know. And I'm like still looking at the door and then it's instead of staying, you know. And we get a name that we could barely understand. And then begins the yajna. So Prabhupada starts building the fire. And so already the smoky room with incense becomes further smoky because instead of getting nice little pieces of wood, we had nice little logs, you know. And so, I mean, we thought a fire's gotta be a fire, right? You know, and I mean, personally, I was really like the idea of having a fire in a room. I thought that was really radical, you know. So that happens, and we couldn't even see Prabhupada on the other side of the yajna. And then he gives the names, you know, and then they hand us a banana. And we're like, what do you do with a banana? Well, no, that's a no-brainer. We start to peel the banana. And right away, one of the advanced New York devotees, by advanced, and you know, 3 minutes older than we are, he came and, no, you put it in the fire. And I'm thinking, oh my God, we put the butter in the fire. Everything goes in the fire. Are we gonna go in the fire? So, and then Prabhupada, it was, well, no, there's a thing called fire walking. And you've heard of that, you know, you walk on coals, so I was thinking maybe that's gonna happen. And so then he says something, what we were hearing said was kind of like boom, boom, boom. You know, you really couldn't see it, and you just heard that sound. And then we kind of looked to Harvey Cohen, who is now Harvey Das. And he was a little older than the rest of us, and he'd been in New York, so maybe he knew what to do. So whether he knew it or not what to do, he decided what to do. And he got on his knees, hands and knees, and he leaned forward. So we got on our hands and knees and leaned forward. And then he started on the fire. And all four of us were blowing on the fire. And that caused the smoke to part a little bit. And then we saw Swamiji with these big round eyes, like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. And you know, what he was actually trying to tell us to do, which is showing how little we knew and how merciful he was to accept us in the condition we were. He was trying to tell us to bow down. You know, you've just been initiated by your spiritual man. You should offer your obeisances and bow down this way, but we couldn't, you know, resist. And he wasn't at all upset with us. You know, I could see nowadays, you know, right away, you just get, as we say, the sauce, but kind of like, he just realized that these poor people, they need extra mercy, and he picked up the kartals and started the kirtan, you know. So that was Srila Prabhupada. And so many instances of strange behavior from new disciples or just people that were coming. And when he realized he just couldn't penetrate their thick, dense skulls, he was just like, I mean, one time he told this one girl, she just couldn't hear, she couldn't understand. And she was trying to tell Prabhupada that you could become God by having sex. And Prabhupada, he very kindly explained, no, that's not how it works, you know, and he explained again, and she said, no, but when I have sex, you know, I become one with God, and but he was explaining why, and tried one more time, she didn't get it, and he leaned and he said, I have only brought one medicine, please take it, and started a kirtan. So that was Srila Prabhupada's very kind, compassionate, and always merciful mood to try to elevate us, to get us out of that blazing fire of material existence, you know. So it is 1:30. I think I've achieved the goal of being on time. So if anybody has a quick question. Okay.
That was the first initiation of the
The first initiation. Remember yesterday, I showed this one picture and I said, this is very historic. Because it showed all of us in Srila Prabhupada in Montreal, and we were getting our dietary initiation. So that was in 68. In late August of 68. And even then we didn't have Buddhists. I mean, I asked them, what was it as one of the devotees said, you're gonna get your second initiation. And I'm like, what is that? And she goes, more mantras. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, this little baby, we're leaving the country. I don't know what's gonna happen when we get on the other side, you know, because we didn't have any, you know, concrete plan. And I'm thinking, oh my God, something happened. It was really sweet that the next day after this is in Montreal, so the next day was Janmashtami. The next day was Srila Prabhupada's appearance day, and so we've done these mantras and I'm now celebrating. This would be the second appearance day, but the first one, which was in '67. It was kind of very almost casual, you know, it was not a big, but this was more of a, it was something more of a celebration, and many people came. And we bring this big tray of Prabhupada, or people did, and I was sitting right in front, speaking from here to Prabhupada, I was sitting, because I know I'm leaving, and we didn't know we're going to UK, what's gonna happen when we ever see him again. So I always kept my baby quiet by putting her on the breast and having her under the sark. And that way she was physically engaged. And Srila Prabhupada actually wrote to one devotee who was having a problem, the devotees were having a problem with the fact that she had a baby, and babies make some noise sometimes. And he wrote back and he goes, I have seen Malati, this nursing Saraswati, so nicely that she's always quiet. So it's up to the mother. So Prabhupada had no issue with taking care of the baby, she's under, you don't say anything. And we had been told that for the first 6 months, only take the mother's milk. And maybe you all follow that now or not, but that was our thing. And so what's Prabhupada do? He gets this big tray, he gets a big fat gulab and he takes a bite, which kind of squirts out, and then he calls me up. He hands his the hand and he drops that gulab in my hand and he said, give it to the child. My stupid brain would go, but she's not even 6 months old. It's like, and then I was like, fool, so, babies, what do? They suck. So I put it, like when he did, I put it to her lips and she was just sucking that, sweet juice, that maha juice. And then I got to eat the rest of it. Yeah. There were so many nice sweet pastimes with my daughter. And then after that day, later in the day, we were leaving to go to New York, which is where we left to go to England. And we had our final darshan in his room. So I had this idea, if we could touch his lotus feet, because we needed all the help we could get. And we'd all seen how he didn't really like it when people would touch his feet. And I was thinking, I was told that, the lifetime of sins, 10,000 years of sins will be gone away. Touch the feet of a pure devotee. What I hadn't been told was that you're dumping that on the pure devotee, so you're transferring it. Anyways, I thought, well, I asked Govinda Dasi, who was serving with her husband, to ask him if we can touch his feet before we leave. And he agreed, we could do that. So we're sitting, he's sitting on the floor with the low table, which was normal. And we go in the room, so there were some pleasantries and final instructions that he mentioned how he, his Guru Maharaj had said, sannyasi, he said, didn't do anything. He says, I'm taking a different track, I'm sitting in Vihastras. And then came time to leave, and he looks at me and he goes, give me the child. So I gave Saraswati, and now she's like just 5 weeks. And he holds her like she's facing out, he's facing out, and he flipped his garland over. So he has a garland and it was over Saraswati also. And he goes, now they will say, what kind of sannyas is he? And that was really sweet, and there's no picture of it because Gurudas didn't have his camera with him at that time. So then he extended his lotus feet, and one by one we were going up there taking his lotus feet, and each one of us, he rubbed right at the back of our head and our neck. And when that happened, I can just tell you, I said, I don't know, it was just like some kind of electrical surcharge. And I felt like, I don't know how it's gonna happen, but I know we're gonna be able to accomplish our mission. It may be easy, it may not be, but I felt like this was a guarantee. Jamuna was an ex-Catholic, or had been a Catholic, and say after she was a Catholic. Catholics are into kissing and kiss the hands and all that. She grabbed Prabhupada's feet and kissed his lotus feet. Yeah, she was good. And then we took his leave and went on to New York, on to England, on to India. We have to take off, we're gonna go over to Atlanta. And if after this program, anybody feels inclined later in the day, could zip over to Atlanta. And they're having a kirtan festival. So we'll spend a lot of time there, and then we're going to Christmas. So, I can't spend too much time with the kirtan festival.
You said Ajit Krishna?
Ajit Krishna.
Yes,
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
We need 10 more minutes of your time.
Pardon?
We need 10 more minutes of your time. We need 10 minutes of your time.
Okay, that sounds ominous.
So, you can see the kind of sacrifice that Srila Prabhupada made for all of us. And you can see what kind of sacrifice his disciples have been making for us. Thank you for cutting me off. So we should be very, very grateful to Prabhupada's disciples because they represent Prabhupada. And while one people was speaking, it kind of brought tears into my eyes to hear what Prabhupada went through. So we just appreciate that. I'm sure we'll be very sincere in our Krishna consciousness because he has given everything to us. He has given his whole life and time and everything and what he has gone through. So as a small token of gratitude, devotees here, especially Rakshita, have made a special cheesecake for Maharaji Prabhu. Express our gratitude by chanting the Krishna treatments for Prabhu. These 2 days have been like we were in a competition of Prabhupada. That's how Prabhu speaks. It's very beautiful. Represent Prabhupada purpose. Hare Krishna three times. Hare Krishna, loudly, loudly. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. So we request Mahdi Prabhu to please start the day, and if possible, please take the first piece. Something just hard out the oven and spinning the trays. That's why we can transfer it. Huh? It's good. Devotees to put up with pieces for build up here and the hope for the way, etc.
Yeah, dispatch. Yeah. Yes, yes. Yeah, I like it. Like, what kind of?
Okay. Krishna. Oh.
Hare Krishna. So, may of you would like to see Maharaj Prabhu come back.
Yes.
So then please loudly chant Hare Krishna. They are done very often one day. They want it, raise your hand now, up and chant loudly. So everyone please honor Krishna before you leave. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, how are you? Sorry, we couldn't. I have one more thing. Okay. So I have one more thing. I have two things. So we have one more thing. Did you really feel hungry? How are you? How did can it? No, no, take. Yes. Yes. पहले छोटा I think we have one more. Prayer. I did. So I think you get. Oh, now you are getting nice piece.
తిన్నాను నువ్వు తింటావా తీసుకొని మాత్రం రెడీ రే హబీష్ రే హబీష్ కేక్ వద్దా
I tried. I gave him some. Can I get a moment?
ఓకే రైట్
मैंने स्पेशली आपका चीज केक टेस्ट करने आई हूँ।
Really?
मुझे कभी भी किसी और का खाने को नहीं मिलता है ना, खाली अपना ही मिलता है। पहले एक डालो मेरे में, मुझे खाली अपना ही मिलता है आपका।
आपका अच्छा होगा मत.
नहीं नहीं, आपका तो सबसे बेस्ट होगा। टेस्टिंग एंड
There is
ईटिंग
one. There is one more there.
वेरी गुड माता जी,
People are
वेरी गुड।
go there and eat, like you are just going to make it drink now.
someday.
Oh, yes.